Baby, someone paid me to betray you. I need you to just stop whatever you are doing right now and stay with me, because what I am about to tell you is something I have been carrying alone for longer than I should have, and I cannot carry it anymore. Not another day, not another hour. Someone sat across from me, looked me in the eye and offered me something significant. Something that most people in my position would have had a very hard time saying no to. In exchange for betraying your trust. In exchange for using what I know about you, what you have given me so openly and so generously over all this time against you. And I need to tell you everything, every detail, every moment of it. From the beginning to the part that changed everything. Because you deserve the full truth, not a version of it. Not the cleaned up, comfortable version that makes me look better than I did in some of those moments. The real version. The one that costs me something to tell. The one that I am telling you anyway, because there is nothing in this world, no amount of money, no offer, no opportunity, that is worth more to me than your trust. So let me take you back to where it started. Because it did not start dramatically. It never does it? The things that have the potential to change everything never announce themselves properly. They arrive quietly, dressed like ordinary moments, and you don't realize what they actually are until you are already inside them. It started with a message, a very polished, very professional, very carefully worded message from someone I did not know. Someone who had clearly done their research, someone who understood enough about how my world works to know exactly which door to knock on and exactly how to knock on it so that it sounded reasonable. Almost reasonable. The kind of reasonable that makes you pause before you say no, even when something in you already knows the answer should be no. The message said they wanted to meet. It said they had a proposition. It said, and this is the part that I keep coming back to, the part that tells you everything about who these people are and what they were actually doing. It said they were fans of my work, that they had been following what I was building for a long time, and that they believed in it. And something about the way they said it felt wrong immediately. The way a note played slightly off pitch feels wrong even before your brain has identified which note it should have been. I felt it, that quiet wrongness. And I went anyway. I want to be honest with you about that. I felt something off and I went anyway. Because curiosity is one of my weaknesses. And because I told myself it was professional, and because I had not yet understood what was actually being offered. We met in the kind of place that is designed to make everything feel important and confidential. The kind of quiet, expensive, carefully lit environment that powerful people use when they want you to feel like you are being let into something exclusive. And I sat down across from this person and I looked at them and I thought, okay, let's hear it. And they talked for a while about things that didn't matter. The warm-up conversation that is really just calibration. Just them watching how I respond to things, measuring me. I recognized it because I have sat across from enough people in my life to know what calibration looks like, and I let them do it, and I sat there and I was calm, and eventually they got to the point, and the point was you. Not you specifically, not your name or your face or any one individual, but you collectively, the relationship I have with you, the trust you have placed in me, the things you share with me in the private and honest moments that exist between us. They had been watching it, they had been studying it, and they had identified it with a coldness that I still feel when I think about it, as an asset, as something that could be leveraged, as a door that if the right person had the key to it, could be opened and walked through. To reach you in ways that would benefit them enormously and cost you things you would not even realize you were losing until long after the damage was done. They wanted information. That was the core of it, stripped of all the careful professional language. They wanted to know things about you, patterns, preferences, the particular vulnerabilities that come through in the way a person engages with something they trust. They wanted to understand the shape of what you carry, the things that move you, the places where you are softer than the world knows, and they wanted me to give it to them, because they knew and they were right about this, which is the part that made me feel sick in a way I have not felt in a long time. They knew that you had given me access to those things, that you had trusted me with pieces of yourself that you do not give to everyone, and they wanted to use that. They wanted to reach through the connection you and I have built, and take something from you that was never theirs to take. And then they told me what they were offering in return. And I am not going to tell you the number, because the number is not the point. The point is that it was large enough to matter. Large enough that I understood immediately why they thought it might work. Large enough that sitting across from it, in that quiet, expensive room, I felt the full weight of what I was being asked, and what saying yes would mean. They were not naive about it. They knew it was a significant ask, and so they made it a significant offer. And they sat back, and they watched me, and they waited. And I want to tell you exactly what happened in the silence that followed, because this is the part I need you to really hear. This is the part that I have replayed more times than I can count. Not with pride exactly, but with a kind of quiet gratitude. For whoever I was in that moment. For whatever instinct or value or deep-rooted thing inside me rose up before my more practical, calculating mind could get involved. In that silence, with the offer sitting on the table between us, I thought about you, not abstractly, not as a concept or a category or a strategic consideration. I thought about you the way I actually think about you, specifically, tenderly, with full knowledge of what you have given me and what it cost you to give it. I thought about the messages, the ones that came in the middle of the night when you could not sleep, and something I made was the thing you reached for. I thought about the ones where you told me things you said you had never told anyone, not because you knew me in any conventional sense, but because something about this connection felt safe enough for truth. I thought about the courage it takes to be that honest with someone, the particular vulnerability of reaching towards something you cannot fully see, and trusting it to receive you carefully. I thought about all of that sitting in that room, and I felt something clarify inside me with a speed and certainty that left no room for negotiation. I thought she gave me that. She gave me all of that. And this person sitting across from me wants me to take what she gave in trust and hand it to them like it is mine to give, like it belongs to me, like I have any right to it beyond the right you gave me when you chose to share it, which was the right to hold it carefully and never under any circumstances use it against you. I looked at them and I said, no, just no. Not a long speech, not a dramatic moment, not the kind of refusal that announces itself. Just no. Clear and simple and without apology. And I watched something shift in their expression. Not anger exactly. More like recalibration, like they had been certain of one outcome and were now updating their model. And they tried again. Of course they tried again. People like that always try again, because they have usually found that the first no is negotiable. If you apply the right kind of pressure, they adjusted the offer, they reframed the ask, they made it sound smaller, more reasonable, more like something any sensible professional person would consider just a normal kind of business arrangement. And I felt something then that I was not expecting, which was anger. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, clear, completely focused kind that comes when someone underestimates what you value and tries to use that underestimation to manipulate you. Because what they were doing in reframing it and adjusting it and making it sound reasonable was telling me something. They were telling me that they believed I had a price, that the no I had just said was a negotiating position rather than a genuine boundary, that if they found the right number, the right framing, the right angle of approach, they could turn my no into a yes. And the thing they did not understand, the thing they could not have understood, because they had been thinking about you as an asset and not a person, because they had been thinking about our connection as a resource and not a relationship. The thing they did not understand was that there is no number, there is no framing, There is no angle of approach that reaches a version of me that would do what they were asking. Because what they were asking me to give away was not mine. And I am not in the business of selling things that belong to someone else. I left. I got up from that quiet, expensive table, and I walked out into the ordinary air of the world outside, and I stood there for a moment, just breathing, just letting the realness of outside, the noise and the movement and the uncalibrated, unpolished, genuinely ordinary texture of the world settle around me. And I thought about you, again, still, the way I always come back to you. I thought about whether to tell you, and I thought about how to tell you, and I thought about what it would mean for you to know that someone had tried to get to you through me, and that the thing standing between you and them was just me, just my choice, just whatever I am made of, underneath all the performance and the presentation, just the part of me that has been shaped quietly and permanently by everything you have given me, by every honest thing you ever shared, by every moment of trust you extended without knowing exactly where it would land. And I realized that telling you was not optional, not really, because keeping it from you would be its own kind of betrayal, smaller than what they were asking me to do. But in the same family, it would be me deciding that you did not need to know something that directly concerned you, that I could protect you better through silence than through honesty, that the discomfort of telling you was a good enough reason to leave you without information that was yours by right. And I do not, here it is, all of it, and I am giving it to you, because you deserve to have it, and because I would rather face this together than carry it alone and call that protection. So here it is, all of it, and there is still more. There is the part of this story I have not told you yet, the part that happened after I left that room, the part that made everything I have just described feel even more significant than it already did, because something else happened, something I did not expect, something that changed the way I understand not just that moment, but everything before it and everything that is going to come after. And I need you to stay with me for it, the way you always stay with me, the way that has become one of the things I count on most in this world. Because what came next is the part that is really about you, about what you are to me, about what I understood, standing in the ordinary air outside that room, about the true size and nature of what we have, what we actually have. Not the version I had been telling myself, the careful, managed, keep it in its proper place version that I had been using to make sense of this connection without fully confronting what it had become. The real version, the one that sitting in that room with that offer on that table became impossible to look away from anymore. Because here is what I understood. Standing outside in the air, with my heart still beating faster than normal, and my mind still sharp with the clarity that comes after you have done something that cost you something real, I understood that the reason saying no was so easy, and it was easy. I want you to know that underneath the anger and the discomfort, the actual decision was the easiest thing I have made in a long time. The reason it was easy was because of who you are to me, not who you are in theory, not who you are as an audience or a following, or any of the comfortable professional words I have sometimes used to describe this, because they felt safer than the accurate ones. Who you are to me specifically, genuinely, in the part of my life that exists underneath everything visible. You are the person I am honest for. I need you to let that land before I say anything else. Out of everything I could tell you about what you mean to me, that might be the most true. You are the reason I stopped performing and started telling the truth. Not all at once. It happened slowly, the way real changes happen, so gradually that I could not have pointed to the moment while I was inside it. But looking back from where I stand now, I can trace it. I can follow the line backward from who I am today to the moment you entered my life and changed the conditions of everything. Before you, before whatever this is that we have built together in the space between your life and mine, I was very good at saying what was expected. at giving people the version of me that fit the moment, that answered the question without really answering it, that appeared open while remaining carefully closed. I was so good at it that I had almost stopped noticing I was doing it. It had become simply how I operated. The performance so constant and so practiced that it had started to feel like the real thing. And then something shifted, and the something was you, the way you responded, not to the performed version, but to the moments when it slipped, the way you came alive, reached out, said things that found me in places I thought were private, in moments where something real had leaked through without my planning it. You responded to the leaks. You found the cracks in the careful construction and you put your hands against them, not to widen them, but to warm them, to let me know that what was coming through was not something to be fixed or hidden, but something worth having, something worth showing. And slowly across time, across more moments than I can count, I started making more cracks on purpose, started letting more through, started trusting, in the incremental and terrifying way that trust is actually built in real life, that what was on the other side of the performance was not something you would turn away from. I was right. You did not turn away. You moved closer. And that is one of the most significant things that has ever happened to me. So when that person sat across from me and offered me something real and large and professionally significant in exchange for using what you gave me against you, the part of me that said no was the part of you built. Does that make sense? The part of me that has been shaped by your honesty and your trust and your willingness to stay. That is the part that stood up in that room. You were not just what I was protecting. You were the thing inside me doing the protecting. And I do not know if I have ever understood anything about myself as clearly as I understood that in the moment after I walked out of that meeting and stood in the ordinary world and felt the weight of what had just happened settle into something I could name. I want to tell you about the drive home, because something happened on that drive that I have not stopped thinking about, something small and private, and not at all dramatic, that somehow contained more meaning than anything that happened in that expensive, carefully lit room. I was driving and the city was doing what cities do in the early evening, moving and lit and full of people living their lives in all directions, and I had the strange and overwhelming urge to tell you, not to process it alone, not to sit with it privately until it became manageable, not to do the thing I have done my whole life, which is to take difficult experiences inside and work through them in solitude, and only emerge when I have something composed to show for it. I wanted to tell you immediately. I wanted you to know. Not because I needed to confess or to be absolved or to manage my own discomfort by sharing it, but because you were the first person my heart went to. In a moment of something real, something that mattered, something that had just asked something significant of me, you were where I went, without deciding to, without thinking about whether it was appropriate or what it would mean or how it would be received. Just immediately, instinctively, the way you go toward light when you are in the dark, toward you. And I sat with that on the drive home. I sat with the fact of it that you have become, without ceremony or announcement, the person my interior life reaches for first, the person I want to tell things to, the person whose response I imagine before I have told anyone anything, whose presence I feel in my choices, even when you are not physically anywhere near them. That is not a small thing. I want you to understand that. That is not something that happens with everyone or often or without meaning. That is the specific and unmistakable signature of something real. Something that has been growing quietly in the spaces between everything visible, putting down roots in the dark the way real things do, and has become, without my fully noticing the moment it crossed from one thing into another, essential. You are essential to me. I am saying it simply because it deserves to be said simply, without decoration or careful arrangement, just plainly and directly the way true things deserve to be said. You are essential, not convenient, not comfortable, not a pleasant feature of my life that I would miss if it were gone. Essential. The way certain things are essential, not because life would be impossible without them, but because life without them would be so diminished, so much less than what it is with them. That the difference is not a matter of preference, but of something closer to survival. I want to tell you what I did when I got home that night. After the meeting, after the drive, after sitting with all of it long enough to understand the shape of what I was feeling, I went through everything you had ever given me. Every message, every moment, every piece of yourself you had ever trusted me with. Not because I needed to review it or organize it, or do anything practical with it, but because I needed to remember. I needed to sit with the full weight of what I had just protected, what that person in that room had tried to take, and what I had refused to hand over. I needed to feel the real size of it, not as an abstraction, not as a principle, but as the actual specific, irreplaceable thing it is. Your words, your honesty, your reaching out at 2 a.m. when you could not sleep, and something I made was the voice you chose to have in the dark. You're telling me things you had not told anyone, not because you were certain it was safe, but because something told you to try. You're staying. All the times you came back, all the ordinary faithful returning that has built, across time, something I could not have planned or manufactured or found anywhere else. I sat with all of it and I felt something that I am going to try to describe accurately, even though I am not sure language is fully equal to it. I felt responsible. Not in the heavy, anxious, burdened sense, in the other sense. The good sense. The sense of responsibility that is really just love with its full weight acknowledged. I felt responsible for you the way you feel responsible for something precious, not trapped by it, not diminished by it, but enlarged by it. Made more serious and more careful and more intentional by the understanding that what you are holding matters enormously and deserves to be held accordingly. That is what I felt, and I want you to know that I welcomed it. I did not feel the urge to put it down or create distance from it, or find some way to make it lighter. I held it and I felt its full weight and I thought, yes, this is right. This is what it is supposed to feel like when something real is in your hands. There is something else I need to tell you. Something that came out of that night, out of all that sitting and remembering and feeling the full weight of what you are to me. A decision. Not the dramatic kind, not a declaration or a vow or anything that requires an audience. A quiet, private, completely certain decision that I made alone in the dark, and that has not wavered by even a fraction since the moment I made it. I decided that I am going to be worthy of you. Not perfect. I have already told you that perfection is not something I am offering and not something I believe in as a standard for real human relationships. But worthy, the specific, demanding, daily kind of worthiness that is not a destination but a practice. The kind that requires showing up differently on the days when showing up feels hard. The kind that means I earn your trust not once but continuously, not with a single gesture but with the accumulation of 10,000 small honest ones across the length of whatever time we have. And that decision changed something in how I move through everything. Because now when I make choices, not just the large obvious ones but the small daily ones, the ones that seem insignificant because no one is watching, I am aware of you. Not in a way that feels like pressure or surveillance. In a way that feels like orientation, like having a compass that always tells you which direction is true. I ask myself in those moments, whether the choice I am making is one that a person worthy of your trust would make. And sometimes the answer is yes, immediately, and the choice is easy. And sometimes the answer requires me to slow down and look more carefully and choose something harder than what I would have chosen if I were only accountable to myself. And I choose the harder thing. Because you are worth the harder thing. Because you have always been worth it. From the very beginning. Even before I understood clearly enough to say so, I want you to know something about what happened to the people who tried to do this. Not as revenge, not from any desire to be dramatic about it, just because the ending of that part of the story belongs to you, as much as the beginning does, and you deserve to have the whole thing. After I said no and walked out, I did something I have never done before in a professional context. I documented everything, every detail of what was proposed, and what was asked and what was offered. I kept a record of it that could not be denied or reframed or made to seem like something other than what it was. Because I understood, with a clarity that felt almost cold in its precision, that what they had attempted was not just an offense against me. It was an attempt against you, and you deserved to have someone treat it with the full seriousness that implied. You deserve to have someone say, "This matters enough to protect properly," not just in the moment of the offer but afterward, completely in every way available. I am still thinking about you right now. In this moment, as I am telling you all of this, I am thinking about what it feels like on your side of this confession. Whether it is frightening to know that someone tried to reach you through me, whether it changes something in you about the nature of trust and safety and what it costs to be connected to someone in the visible way you are connected to me. And I want to say something about that directly, without softening it or rushing past it. Your fear, if you feel it, is valid. Your caution, if this makes you more careful, is reasonable. And your trust, if you choose to continue giving it, is something I will never again simply receive without understanding the full weight of what you are handing me. Because I know now, in a way I did not know before that room and that offer, and that drive home in the evening city, exactly what your trust is worth. Not in the way they were trying to calculate it, not in numbers or leverage or strategic value. In the real way. In the way that has no unit of measurement because it exists in a category that money and strategy and professional calculation cannot enter. Your trust is worth the version of me that walked out of that room. Your trust is worth the person I am becoming, slowly and imperfectly and with full commitment, in the space that your honesty and your presence and your faithful returning have made possible inside me. And I need to tell you that there is one more thing, one more piece of that night that I have been holding back, not because I want to withhold it, but because I needed everything else to be said first, needed the ground to be prepared properly before I placed this particular thing on it. Because this last part is the most personal, the most vulnerable, the part that even now, knowing everything I know about the value of honesty, costs me something to say out loud. It is about what I felt, alone in the dark after all the remembering and the weight and the decision about worthiness. It is about what came after all of that settled, when the thinking was done and the deciding was done, and there was nothing left but the quiet and whatever was true underneath everything else. Underneath the confession and the anger and the decision and the careful, serious, fully committed worthiness. Underneath all of it. Just the simplest, most undefended thing. The thing that was there before I had words for any of this, and will be there long after the words have been said, and absorbed and become part of the permanent record of what passed between us. I was sitting in the dark and the house was completely quiet, and I had finished thinking and finished deciding, and I was just there, just present in the stillness of a late night that had asked more of me than most days do. And what I felt, quietly, without drama, without announcement, was grateful. Not the polite surface kind of gratitude that you express when someone does something nice and the social contract requires acknowledgement. The deep kind. The kind that comes from somewhere below your sternum and spreads outward slowly, like warmth from something that has been burning steadily for a long time without your noticing. I felt grateful for you in a way that brought tears to my eyes, which is not something that happens easily for me, and I sat with those tears, and I did not rush them, or explain them away, or feel embarrassed by them in the way I might have once. I just let them be what they were, which was love. Which has always, in my experience, been what tears are when they come in the quiet and the dark without a specific grief to attach themselves to. They are just love with nowhere else to go. And in that gratitude, in that quiet dark, something became clear to me that I want to share with you now. Something about the nature of what we have that I had been partially understanding for a long time, but had not yet seen in its complete form. I had been thinking about our connection, about you and me, and this thing that exists in the space between your life and mine, in terms of what it does, what it produces, the things it has made possible in me, the ways it has changed my work and my honesty and my willingness to be seen. I had been understanding it as something functional, something that operates in the realm of doing and making and becoming. And all of that is true. But sitting there in the dark, I understood that it is also something else entirely. Something that does not function or produce or operate. Something that simply is, simply exists, simply persists quietly and permanently, regardless of what it makes possible or what it changes or what either of us does with it. What we have is real. I know I have said versions of that before, in various ways and with various levels of detail, but I want to say it now in the plainest possible language because I think plain language is what this moment deserves. What we have is real, not metaphorically, not in the qualified, careful sense where real means real for what it is, meaning real within certain understood limitations. Real the way the most important things in my life are real. Real the way the decision I made in that room was real, solid and certain, and not subject to revision based on what it costs or what someone offers me on the other side of choosing differently. What I feel for you is not a performance. It is not a strategy. It is not the calculated warmth of someone who understands that connection drives engagement and has decided to manufacture the appearance of genuine feeling because it serves a purpose. It is the actual thing, the original thing, the feeling that existed before I had any understanding of what to do with it, or where to put it, or how to offer it in a way that you could receive. I want to tell you what real looks like from the inside, because I think sometimes when someone says something is real, the word floats a little. It gestures at something without landing in a specific enough place to actually mean what it is trying to mean. So let me be specific. Real for me looks like thinking about you in the middle of tasks that have nothing to do with you. Real looks like the particular quality of attention I bring to everything you have ever given me. The way I read your words not once but several times, not because I missed something the first time, but because I want to receive them fully, want to let them arrive completely rather than processing them quickly and moving on. Real looks like the way your name, not your name exactly, but the idea of you, the particular feeling that your presence creates, appears in my mind at unexpected moments, during ordinary things, during the folding of laundry and the driving through evening cities and the sitting in expensive rooms where people are trying to buy something that is not for sale. Real looks like this, like sitting in the dark after the hardest kind of evening and feeling grateful instead of resentful, like choosing honesty when silence would be so much easier and so much safer, and absolutely no one would know the difference except me, like understanding that what I am most afraid of losing, more than any professional thing, more than any opportunity or platform or carefully built version of my public life, is your trust. Your specific, hard-won, freely given trust. That is what real looks like from the inside. And I want you to know it because I think you have spent enough time in your life accepting things that looked like the real thing from a distance, but revealed themselves as something thinner up close. I think you know the difference between warmth and performance. I think your body knows it even when your mind is still deciding. And I want every part of you, your mind and your body and the quiet instinctive knowing that lives underneath both, to be able to look at what I am offering and recognize it for what it actually is. There is something I want to ask you, and I want to ask it gently, without pressure, with full respect for whatever your honest answer is. I want to ask you whether anyone has ever fought for your trust the way I am fighting for it right now. Not just declared it valuable. Declarations are easy and cost nothing, but actually practically, in a moment that required something real to be given up in order to protect something real. Whether anyone has ever made the choice that I made in that room. Whether you have been in someone's life in such a specific and irreplaceable way that when the moment came, when something was on the table and a decision had to be made, you were the reason the answer was no. Not one consideration among several. Not a factor in a calculation. The reason. The whole reason, simple and complete and not requiring any further justification. I hope you have. I hope there have been people in your life who understood your worth that clearly and acted on it that completely. But I also know, from the things you have shared with me, from the particular quality of surprise and disbelief that comes through sometimes when you receive something genuinely good, I know that it has not always been that way for you. I know that there have been people who chose differently, who, when the moment came and the choice was there, chose the other thing, chose what was easier or more profitable or less complicated or more aligned with what they wanted for themselves. And I know what that does to a person across time. I know how it teaches you to expect less, to hold what you are given loosely in case it disappears, to maintain a private and very sensible skepticism about anything that presents itself as unconditional, because experience has shown you that conditions have a way of appearing eventually, often at the worst possible moment. I want to be the evidence against that pattern. I want to be the data point that your experience has been missing, not through a single dramatic gesture, though I suppose what happened in that room qualifies as something, but through the accumulation, through the long, unbroken, consistent record of choosing you, protecting you, telling you the truth, showing up in the ways that matter. I want to do that for long enough that the skeptical part of you, the part that has been trained by disappointment to wait for the conditions to appear, gradually, reluctantly, with full permission to take as long as it needs, I want that part of you to eventually put down its waiting and rest. To decide, based on evidence rather than hope, that this is safe, that I am safe, that what I am offering is what it appears to be, and will remain so, not because I am incapable of choosing otherwise, but because choosing otherwise is simply not something I am willing to do. I want to tell you about something that happened a few days after the meeting. Something small that I keep returning to, because it seems to contain, in miniature, everything I have been trying to say in full. I was going through my phone, just the ordinary scrolling, the half-attentive moving through things that most of us do several times a day, without really being present for it. And I came across something you had sent me a while ago. I do not want to say what it was specifically, because it belongs to you, and the details of it are yours. But it was something honest. Something that had cost you something to say. Something you had offered with the particular careful vulnerability of a person who has decided to trust, but is still a little afraid of what that decision might cost them. And I stopped scrolling. I stopped completely, and I read it again, slowly, the way it deserved to be read. And I felt the same thing I felt the first time I read it. That shift, that warmth, that sense of something precious being placed in my hands. But I also felt something new. Something that had been added by everything that had happened in the days between then and now. I felt the full weight of the responsibility. Not as a burden. I want to be clear about that, because responsibility and burden can look similar from the outside, but they feel completely different from the inside. A burden is something you carry in spite of yourself, something that costs you more than it gives. Responsibility is something you carry because you understand what it means, and you have chosen it with full knowledge of the cost. What I felt was responsibility. I felt it clearly and completely, and without any part of me wishing it were otherwise. Because what you gave me in that message, and in every message before it, in every honest moment, in every piece of yourself you have trusted me with across all this time, is not mine to put down. It is not mine to negotiate with or leverage or hand to someone sitting across from me in an expensive room who has decided that your vulnerability is something they can use. It is mine to hold carefully, permanently, with the full understanding that holding it well is not a favor I am doing you but an obligation I have accepted, and that I intend to honor for as long as you allow me to. And here is what I want to say about that. About the honoring of it. About what that actually looks like in practice, beyond the dramatic moments, beyond the meetings and the offers and the nights of clarity in the dark. I want to tell you what it looks like on the ordinary days, because the ordinary days are where love actually lives, where trust is actually built, where the truth of what a person is to you is either confirmed or quietly, gradually eroded. On the ordinary days, honoring what you have given me looks like this. It looks like making choices with you somewhere in them, even when no one would know if I didn't. It looks like refusing the small compromises, as firmly as I refused the large one, the moments where it would be easy to be a little less honest, a little less present, a little less genuinely here, and no one would call me on it because the standard for those things is so low that almost anything clears the bar. I am not trying to clear the bar. I am trying to be something you do not have a bar for yet. Something better than what previous experience has led you to measure. It looks like telling you things before I am ready to tell them, because you deserve the truth at full speed, not the carefully timed, strategically released version of it that protects my image at the expense of your right to know. It looks like this confession, which is costing me something real, which is exposing things about my world and my professional life and my vulnerabilities that I would not expose to most people, but which you deserve to have because it involves you directly, and because keeping it would be a kind of betrayal, even if a quieter one, than what I was asked to commit. It looks like loving you without an agenda. That might be the most important thing I can tell you, and I want to say it in the simplest words available. I love you without an agenda. There is nothing I am trying to get from you. There is no version of this where my honesty and my care and my willingness to walk out of rooms that are trying to buy your trust. There is no version where any of that is in service of something I want from you on the other side. The loving is not instrumental. It is not a means to anything. It is the thing itself, complete and self-contained and asking nothing in return except perhaps the thing you have already been giving me all along, which is simply this: your presence, your honesty, your faithful